Good, everybody? It's getting here. Welcome to Nerd from Materials. I haven't done this in a minute, right? One, hope you guys are having a great day. If you're new here, please leave a like, share, comment, subscribe. You already know what the deal is. As you guys see on the title and obviously on the thumbnail, I'm doing a ranking all the DCU from weakest to strongest, right? One, this is obvious. This is out of, not just, getting a defined, beautiful start to the new DCU, aka the DCAU, with Superman. I've seen it, technically by the time I'm recording this 2 days ago, right, as 7/12/2025. The movie, officially came out yesterday. I've seen it July 10th, right? Bussin' movie, reasonably give it an 8 something today, and they're 9 out of 10. Pretty peak, without a doubt, undoubtedly, right? I fuck with it a lot. But this video I had in mind to do before the actual movie release, but obviously time, schedule, all that, take into much of knowledge, and the fact of the matter is, man wanted to see the movie very much, and makes also plans for different stuff for, my Rep 300, and makes, anniversary events and shit like that. Regardless of that, though, with that being said, we here, doing it. My opinion on DCU, I've already said before, had a great deal of potential, lost all our own sauce, and a lot of its problems are behind the scenes, but there's a lot of things in execution that just were undoubtedly peak levels of garbage cheeks, but there was a lot of likableness in it, and they had a great deal of potential, and gotta give these movies credit. They did give us an interesting form of DC life on a big screen. Regardless of that, though, obviously you see in the thumbnail, I'm gonna be obviously ranking them from weak to strongest. A lot of things to be talked about. Haven't done this decently in a minute. Got a lot of different mixed plans for tier lists and other conversations of that sort. But again, if you're new here, really appreciate it if you do the things like I said and mentioned. Right, regardless, I appreciate your watch. If you disagree with any of this stuff, let me know in the comments down below. And if you really disagree and you want to debate or educate me about some different mix, scaling or information that I do not know, or simply want to, provide a different point of view, my Discord is RP King 324. I'm always down to have a conversation, and most importantly, have a cohesive, cool debate. At the end of the day, all I ask for is respect and reciprocation to get it back to you. Regardless of that, though, let's go and get into it. Enough talk. Starting with the bottom, we have question marks. There's no scaling as always. So, all these characters scaling is very mixed form and either contextual mixed stance, right, for where they actually stand. There's not any true merit from that. Should be anything like these 3 siblings to mix, form of 2 sisters, niece thing. Don't have that much we took him. The old king of one of the kingdoms of Atlantis, as there used to be 8 kingdoms, right? And it only formed into 7 kingdoms after this, malicious, evil, demonic-like king was put down. He has claimed to be on the same stand as, great King Atlan, right? Which reasonably, Aquaman was go over from multiple mixed matter of reasoning, right? But at the same time, there's just the fact that he doesn't really showcase his great outing and shit. There's a lot of mixed perception of his actual scaling to really to finally say anything, especially because of Tritus usage and what it could be at full obtained power and what it could actually do in a true master of the seas like him. So yeah, then you have this futuristic Barry, which you can say this for all the futuristic versions of where they actually true constitute, in scaling and mix of their topic of talk. But as well, it's just the fact of the matter is that other future versions and what if form possibility of a different world of all these different characters of the DCU don't really have any true defined merit of actually scaling to anything, regardless how you see them. And it doesn't matter which form of mixed bag candidate you use, as Zack Snyder's Justice League is do now, end all de facto promised canon, right? So it really doesn't matter whatever type of way you want to try to cross reference, the characters. It just doesn't really make sense to scale him, and everything that he does, there's already reasonable qualification for like Flash, aka Barry, to stand with. Martian Manhunter doesn't do anything. Batman too kind of has like a joke, but reasonably so. Josh King's Batman, I either don't have a great form of like knowledge really taken from, or Josh King's Batman is always being record of like being a very mixed scale person. He could be very reasonably low, even with him showcasing some interesting cases, peak Batman, and glorified, very much radically built different tech-wise than what he even showed back in the day when he was, the Batman of a lot of people's generation. And the fact is that, he is the man himself, right? So he most likely should be in greater prevalence. He just, again, doesn't really show anything to really outdo and really constitute, actual baseness to really be anywhere here, right? And even there's other people that have talked about mixed scale of, this man John Keaton's Batman. I just feel like it's a very much kind of mixed perception thing. So again, he could be reasonably high, he could be low. Again, I don't have the most concrete, I feel like, knowledge to really unravel this dude, to really again say he really stands anywhere and reasonably could outdo or be of anywhere of real greater credence. And Enchantress is simple. This version, at least, just in base, is bound to a mixed confine in a very nerf state totem, and she doesn't really demonstrate anything of super big regard. But to be fair, she could just be like one below her case of, full queen self, which pretty much represents all aspects of what she could be in matter of, spells, sorcery, capabilities, versatility, wackiness, right? She's a wicked sorceress, unironically. So, you could try to substantiate her somewhere, but again, just like in base default, there's not any true big showcasings, and her being able to pop into her almost default fill and a blackened CGI demonic look is just something that she's able to do by default. This version of her by default, where she's a lot more human, distinctly looking, doesn't have any true merit of showcasing of that same regard. So that's where the difference is here. With that being said, though, right, is simply put, Cheeks of Cheeks is characters that have no rationale of being anywhere big high tier, that little mixed matter of scaling, and is really off of like 50-50 who really gets off, the first blow mixed thing, and characters that have very like bad or very much irrelevant showcasings, right? And so, you could put a bunch of different ton of like fodder and jobbers that come and hail from all different aspects of the DCU to mixed talk, and I'm only using what was the most like consistent mainline base of it, right? Obviously, some of the mix of these characters have mixed perception to be in the DCAU, right? Like Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, Blue Beetle, and some maybe mixed perception what would work in the greater run of this tier list, maybe to the DCAU, depending on what James Gunn wants to take in the reboot. But obviously, originally so, and by all reasonable context, was set in stone canon to the DCU. So regardless of some of this scaling might be applicable to the new DCU, we're still in those confines. So yeah, simply put, you got Joker, Black Mask, random gone, from existence. It seemed like random fodder that got from wrong and Birds of Prey or not, because again I forgot who in the fuck this random is, but I do remember and seeing him do a little bit of great applicable shit as like a fighter or some form of like threat that reasonably get him stand over someone else. But this man got easily dusted and foddered by actual relevant people, and again got fully gone from existence almost, right, in different aspect of his demise or defeat. So yeah, so discount Chris Brown over here would just be reasonably here. Killer Croc, so explanatory, above average human. Black Canary, Sonic Scream, skill. Then you have the case of the Huntress, Katana for sword and skill standing, and then Boomerang with all his different, skill and aspects of like crazy shit with his boomerangs. I know that Katana was able to outmaneuver him with different shit, but just from what's been shown in possible potential with, the Suicide Squad, he has upgraded a better usage of, boomerangs that could cut through and flatline most mixed different people, right? So I would say easily that Boomer should just be of a higher scale standing because of his range and craziness, that he can pull. And the fact is that at the end of the day, he has a very kind of crafty arsenal of boomerangs from what's been shown, right? To where I feel like depending on the environment, he reasonably could, out-rock and out-box, people from just a range perspective. And his, boomerangs, regardless of how corny he is, are very lethal. Our favorite famed Australian thief and master craftsman do be really nice with it. So I do believe that, he would just simply put down and fodder a great run around of different people in a lot of aspects. So yeah, simple as that. Street tier though, that's, is Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn should be self-explanatory, regardless of the javelin or not. Is a very skilled and adept fighter. Is way above average human. Has defeated multiple form of trained elite soldiers and men. has been able to take greater blows than other people, has been able to be on the same chain of, different matter of like scaling to a higher merit than others, have been able to fall alongside different matter of mixed people and stand strong, face resurrected almost, dead soldiers that still are intact with all their skill, accolade, capabilities of that sort, and be able to stand tall, right? She's a very crazy, unorthodox, radical shawty, right? The Deadpool, DC, there's some different mixed matter, crazy maneuvers and pull shit. Harley Quinn is a wacky individual, to say the least, right? Crazy, bad bitch energy. She really get on one, right? And again, she's faced not only multiple elite trained people, they're from a resurrected one-man army, almost seeming people, has cracked with multiple mixed different aspects, different people, and it's definitely, one suffice to say, big, bad, activity in different fights. You know what I'm saying? When she actually mixed bad has to face him in a stronger regard. But a lot of people below, mixed with her base equipment, or even with the javelin, she'd be way more in versatility, capability to pull shit. She's able to adapt on the fly in ways that most people can't defeat. She's, again, surprisingly very crazy and radically built different in multiple forms of fighting. And Harley Quinn is just a very much, surprising in a lot of ways, terrifying individual who is very, cutthroat if she wanted to. So I just feel like most times she would effortlessly all around body these people. And again, stronger mixed people are people that should just on a general ethics be beyond her, that some of the people below would struggle or haven't been able to easily body. Like in comparison, I think solidly would put her above, again, especially with the javelin, or have to be considered. But in Vigilante's whole another form of craze, fighter. Not only is this man absolutely insane, pulled the most wild form shit, he is shown to be not only on mixed different par of accolade of being a very good shot, trained, very formal, in some aspects of fighting, but can be very off the leash, and crazy when he wants to. Vigilante has multiple form of statements and talk about how he's on the same form peripheral of not just danger, but also usage to the Black Ops group and Peacemaker against the Butterflies. Has shown great relativity, great durability, has been a decently stand to the Butterfly Gorilla, killed multiple butterflies, is skilled with his, machete, shank, be on his Jason Brody, is very crazed, like mixed matter of person, be moving in ways that we could all reasonably say makes his talk of like unhinged, just like Harley Quinn. But the greater means for is not only does he have greater suffice, to say, scaling and supply to his shit, but weaponry, different shit. I feel like he's very much, a way more form of like advantageous, fighter, where in this sense, when he really gets on, he can not only put people down in quick concession, but it can capitalize on things that others can't. And because of his delirious, wild, uncanny, mindset, I think with that being said, and the things that he's shown to do, could very much decisively put down different mix of people. And again, is on the same record hold as Christopher, aka Peacemaker, on being a very much skilled person. He is insane and a very good killer. And so I believe that from all counting what's shown and his potential to pop off, he would reasonably strongly be able to get around her. And like I said before, very advantageous, person. As when I say this, I mean the sense of like adverting for different stuff, or advantageous, form of like skill, merit, and bygones of like, actually duking it out in a long run. Like he's a guy that is very hard to put down, and if he wants to really go at you, he will be able to take you out. And I feel like he has showcased better actual rationale of skill different department than someone like Harley Quinn, at least in the talk of like guns, range, and weapon mastery. He's just a more, seasoned crackhead than Harley Quinn a lot of the time. When he tweaks out, it would be more rational talk to say that he would build a bester. So I hope, again, with my talk, to reiterate, to rescind my statement, if ever Tasers feel he reasonably should best her most of the time. But besides that, we have Rick Flag, who has way more better accolade than both of them, reasonably so. Like, no repetition. Like, with all his ass made to not only stand toe to toe with skill and mix paw for paw against Christopher, though to outduke best a great multi run of different resurrected, undead, seeming demonic creatures that were on the means of killing this dude and grabbing him up to, be taken back to Enchantress. He's a very, skill accolade dude. He's very efficient in all different forms of gunplay. And with his iconic, BM-30 seeming shotgun or some John Wick shit, showed the AP to be able to bust open two people at the same time with one shot. Burst their guts out. That is crazy matter of not just power, but he seems very effective with it. So decisively, with his skill and all different of reference that he has in comparison, and being said to be the most skilled U.S. Marine agent soldier, like the seeming Captain America of the U.S., but on a general regard, this easily counts this man Rick Flag as being above these people in comparison. Deadshot, though, is said to be one of, if not the best hitman / assassin shot-wise at one point. Deadshot not only has reasonable accolade of being a way more greater shot than Rick Flag. Rick Flag amidst this in the Suicide Squad, he's shown to be very booming different when it comes down to his shooting range. Is very versatile, is very adept, has a lot of great capability of, pulling some out of this world shit. He dang near never misses, and Deadshot is one crazy motherfucker to get into an encounter with. I mean, Deadshot is the man that never misses, can cock motherfuckers in crazy ways like no other, and he's a very mixed person to really decisively say in some different accounting of being certain. He is very much a very high skill regarding the visual, but he did be defeated by, different mixed matter of shit. So there is some mixed outliers to be talked about in this conversation, like the fact that obviously mixed context thing, he was defeated by Batman regardless of his skill with guns and different play and shit. He was defeated hand to hand. I don't think he's the most undoubtedly most proficient bang for bang dude. He definitely got some hands, but he's not of a greater accolade of really reckoning greater standing of not only fighting stand, martial arts stand, or any capability of scaling. There's also the fact that a lot of different form occasions when he does be out shooting their best in people, they are people gimmicks say are some greater rivalry, but he's just of a greater skill and point of regard, like killing multiple of the undead soldiers of sorceress like no other is very much high skill thing, but every other person can do that or would be greater than that. And simply put, he's just a better shot. So killing a bunch of these undead soldiers of Enchantress is a big thing to kind of give him better edge, and that would have him, close out the gap. But the argument for why others above him, even if you want to argue, even though when we get to Bloodsport, that's when I'm going to bigger, talk about the greater instance of actual talk of being a hitman and a sharp, proficient shooter is really going to be talking about, right? But to me put, Deadshot, as a fool come my throat, pause, no duty, is in this talk of being very much a high-skilled, very advert, to different talks of shooting and closing the gap in very surgical ways. But these guys either have just as much boast of being that, better hand-to-hand qualifications, or a better resourceful people, or just obviously way out of his league and rock and bang for bang. So, again, hopefully, I made it clear conclusively why he's there. Peacemaker, though, is easy, not only from the fact that Peacemaker is said to be one of the most skilled members of the Suicide Squad, second to Bloodsport in almost every counting, right? Is one lethal, crazily powerful, with all different form of, his gadgetries, mixed weapons, and versatility. He has a lot of crazy shit on hand that he could use to one-shot, body, instant kill, take out multiple different form of people in easy, quick succession. There's the fact that he has very much good sense of matter of durability. He was able to go and survive with a building falling on top of him, right? Able to stand better than almost everybody in multiple form regards. And the fact is that Peacemaker is one undoubtedly crazy, powerful, and adept motherfucker, right? And even though season 1, the Peacemaker shows him doing a lot more, and this version of Peacemaker up here is Peacemaker counting with all his different form of equipment, prep time, gadgetry, and as well tied with the fact of him not being mixed nerf with having a injured clavicle and shoulder, right? But what he shows in Suicide Squad, 2 or the Suicide Squad is reasonable showcasing of not just being a crazy adept first, fighter, skilled in all different forms of shit. I mean, he's said to be skilled in every weapon known to mankind. That's very much reasonable to perceive as hyperbolic, but the fact that he has like a case of qualification to be the most dang near skilled and knowledgeable sharpshooter and standing of almost D1 killer, it seemed like. It's very much reasonable to me to reckon him to be above Deadshot. This his helmet provides a great sense of, defense, headshot means, and there's the fact of I feel like with what he's shown in mixed skill relativation against Bloodsport, even though obviously there's a big reason of context there for that, there's reasoning to say that he simply put could just outshoot and best Deadshot. And I definitely see if they get into a close quarter scenario, this man Peacemaker is going to fold Deadshot like an omelet. It's not even funny, but yeah. Judo Master, though, isn't obvious from, their showcases, even though, again, mixed context talk, outskilled and fully decimated this man, Chris. Judo Master is one very efficient, skilled, grade A person. There's all different talks about being one of the most technically skilled, crafty, stylistic fighters. Judo Master to me is akin to being the Mabu mixed take of being the Fira, and very much credible of being like the Lady Shiva, of the continuity mixed bag that James Gunn set into play, and mixed credit of the DCU that we have right here, because Lady Shiva obviously hails from DC, but he's very much, skilled, crafty motherfucker. My man be moving like Karai from TMT, bro. He not only, bested multiple mixed skilled people with piecing up Chris, bodying this man, in the mix of the talk. Sorry for you, motherfuckers recording this very much greater late. Sorry for that. The full concretely articulate, right, as a boy, prone to do, is that Judo Master bodied multiple skilled people with him, Big Joe, in the most unformal form through basically Rey Mysterio and Liu Kang on this man Vigilante, and then cross-kicked, what was her name? I forgot her name. James Gunn's wife, actually, but he bested her too, and he beamed the fuck up out of her, right? And if it wasn't for Mixed Taser, and even though he was getting crossed up by Peacemaker, he was getting slapped up, he was showcasing decent relevation to him. So with no context of being injured or anything to be said, I believe that from all the accolades and what he's shown, should be skilled enough and resourceful enough to get around. And even though his suit has mixed perception of actually being truly armor and not just being plastic, as mixed bag, the suit is reasonably made out of just plastic. It's a costume, it's superhero theme, costume, right? It wouldn't take away the fact that he's able to take hits from people that reasonably scale above the general average quota of shit, and can reasonably, by the scaling chain of Peacemaker, survive blows that would be multiple times dealing way beyond a wall level scale. I believe, depending on the circumstance, unless they get a very lethal shot, I do not believe that just because characters have guns or a mixed arsenal of that regard that would take them down. There's also the fact of the matter is that he's accounted to be the greatest weapon of the butterflies, and the butterflies enhance humans. The butterflies could have taken over Judo Master, have all his skills, all his memories, and make him be basically on Compound V. But the fact that by himself, just alone by default, is that skilled, and the butterflies trust him and entrusted him to do different means for them, to be basically their muscle, to me just shows that he's way more better. Plus, he did survive a gunshot to the abdomen. So, yeah, again, he's just way more better. And again, he bodied Chris, beat the hell out of, Harper. Pretty sure that's her name, with memory. And body in the most flying jump man, Rey Mysterio, again, a fear of timing against Vigilante. So, yeah. But to Bloodsport put Superman in the ICU with a kryptonite bullet, We don't know the context of that, but that's a good, famed feat. He is said to be, skilled in every weapon known to mankind, the same level as Bloodsport, was trained since the day he was born, mixed perception, hyperbolic, right? To be skilled in almost every regard, to be a trained, fierce, deadly killer. He's the leader of the Suicide Squad for a reason. Has shown multiple gadgetry, multiple versatility, multiple, assortment of arsenal. That's very crazy. And he, arguably, just from the fact that Will Smith would not show up for the Suicide Squad and Deadshot makes relevance needed for it, and arguably behind the scenes shit with Will Smith, right, was basically put on the same form of board for being this high skill, crack different, regard of accolade of standing and skill merit and capability, right? So to me, that just effortlessly, without a doubt, shines the fact that he's just of a way more greater regard than all of these niggas combined. He did outshoot Chris. He did show relativation to Chris in a lot of forms. And with what he pulled out against Starro, even though it didn't really do anything to Starro, right? Because nobody could do anything to Starro without a bunch of mixed context. And even with, all the possible shit that, Ratcatcher could do, because obviously Ratcatcher's a lot more lower than what you'd expect. Starro has every rationale to say if it wasn't for Harley Quinn shit, if it wasn't for kind of like the most convenient setup, right? Not saying Harley Quinn didn't deserve that setup. That was beautiful, beautiful film. The Suicide Squad peak movie. I've already said this, right? He would have not actually been hurt. It seemed like you need to actually open him up, and unless you're a person that's undoubtedly way more durable or could do that same thing, then he can't be hurt. They needed to hurt him on the inside to kill him. And even then, he was still very much, standing tall decently. A lot of what they were doing was this, cheap shit. It didn't really seem like there's an argument for, that harming him, to be honest. But that's besides the point. Bloodsport just, to me, would pack a lot of these people up in concession. Then you have Batman and Base, right? Just taking them all, scaling, talk, and all that shit. Is, the world's greatest detective, one of the greatest martial artists, hand-to-hand combatant, a seasoned veteran. He's been Batman for probably decades, but on the count, he is very skilled, very lethal. We know this Batman kills if he needs to, and can put people down in a lot of crazy ways. And Batman has a lot of argument for being one of the most, terrifying vatos ever, and it showcases that Batman is the epitome of Black Air Force energy, and it's everything that they got. Batman can outdo, outclass, is a master of what he does, and yeah, it's whole ninja gating time. He's Batman. I don't think I need to explain why Batman is above the greater rest. But even in Base, right, I don't believe he could get past, the White Dragon, right? White Dragon, Christopher's father Peacemaker, leader of a reformed Ku Klux Klan, racist ass motherfucker, is not only way more durable, was able to big body and put the beats on Peacemaker, has a weakness that I don't think if you not Peacemaker and or the case of Vigilante you could actually figure out. But even with that argument, Peacemaker could never actually get his full hands on this man, White Dragon, in a full close quarter fight and without being caught off guard, which is not the context of these fights, right? In an equal, reasonable, adjusted form setting to where characters can even out the odds, play the different games, do what they need to do. I believe that he would just single-handedly be too strong, be too much of a vanguard for these people to face and stand against. And I believe that he would just outdo a lot of these people, close the gap, and just cruise through them, and could one-shot a lot of them hypothetically with a full tank blaster, because he's able to run through possibly multiple rays shit. He was able to send Peacemaker flying. He's able to tear through metal with his bare hands, can fly, and even for a racist, my man is very big brainsy. So yeah, simple as that. But in Batman and The Dark Knight Returns big bulk suit, Superman Buster SS fucking thing, even though it's not the iconic case Justice League Buster, right, has not only way more better vast durability, makes it depend on his weapons, even if they are very much, singularity for the form of kryptonite, and obviously work against Superman, they have as much argument for being gases, form of disorientation and different aspects of crazy versatility in his own right, and just the fact that he was able to take blows from a Superman, weakened, but still Superman, I feel like outdoes almost everybody, and his weaknesses only really Batman could know, and even with that, I think he would just adapt beyond. And with just body, he is a little bit slower, but just as much fast and powerful, and he would just bulldoze for a lot of these people, and him and the White Dragon would be having a big slug match. But I feel like because of his greater durability, so AP, he would just body the White Dragon and fully crack him into next week and be able to assault him in multiple forms, and with his greater tech database could possibly find out his weakness and best him. So there you go. Ratcatcher though, the endless array of rats. The fact is that with the possibility for actually calling as much rats as she needs, she would be able to just swarm all the people below and best. The problem is though, is that Ratcatcher as herself is most likely very squishy, aka being a one-shot person. She has, base human regard shit. She is a default human. She's not strong. She has no argument or accolade for being of any good stand as a person on a physical regard. And so, simply put, right, if anyone ever got their hands on her, she would be donezo. But I don't see that happening from a general regard. To be fair, though, Ratcatcher is a mixed character that I almost said, question mark to no scaling, because she's kind of mixed to really perceive. But I see a great argument to say that with how much rat she could get for Starro and a preset, mindset, hey, yo, I'm actually going to be fighting, she would summon as much hordes of rats as she could. Now, obviously, a great deal of these motherfuckers could outbest the rats to a great deal because of their arsenal, shot, and other shit. But I think if she was hiding behind rats and she has an immeasurable, insatiable amount of rats that she could summon to full, go about this overrunning, stampeding, like literally this is the squirrel girl of DC. She could summon as much crazy amount of squirrels as she wanted to stamp her foot down upon these niggas. So I just see her getting that dub most of the time because of it. Why Polka Dot Man and Peacekeep, DF of like me to the best means over here, Peacemaker, right? With that joke being not just on, prom of his man Peacemaker's name to be mixed made with Peacekeeper, but, the fact that this Peacemaker is pretty much Peace Keep the Death of Me, right? At a play, this man, Polka Dot Man, not only has a way better way, I would argue, to be able to incinerate and decimate a great deal for hordes, but the fact is that he actually was able to severely hurt Starro. And if he was alive and he wasn't too, was the better word, fucking gobstopped, like astounded by his, amazing display of power, I would say that, he would actually be the biggest threat to Starro. Maybe, and then granted, I still think Starro would body him because just the fact of the matter that it's just him, right? It's one person, it's not a whole team. I feel like he would eventually just run through a lot of the rats, and we don't know if he really has a full weakness. I mean, he could pull a lot of crazy shit, right? And I just believe that with all the AP, with all his talk, he not only would literally just possibly one-shot most people on a general regard, but it would just be too much. Granted, his durability, you could say, is very squishy, so, same shit, but I believe he could counter a lot of his people, and him like Ratcatcher, you could say is a mixed scaling, but I feel like he has a reasonable argument to say consistently most of the time he would beat them, because again, like the whole his actual base durability, it still wouldn't change the fact of the matter is that he would just outshoot or outclose the distance. And I don't really think, unless you want to argue, headshot dead, that matters, to be honest. But again, Peacemaker post season 1. Possibly you could argue what Peacemaker is going to be like in the Dceu, right? Peacemaker, a.k.a. Peace, keep the death of me from possibly happening, right? Man that would kill any man, woman, and children as long as peace is the absolution, right? This man, Peacemaker, the guilt, John Cena, Big Dog, Big Dunzel, Big Chris, right? He's not only way better showcasing capabilities, stand way better to others all around, has multiple helmets to help him do crazy shit, from Torpedo, from Shockwave, Absolute Zero, Gravity, has all different talk of, being crazy. He has great deal of his arsenal that, he could use in the prep time scenario, and that's kind of what this Peacemaker is. I not only see from mixed accounting for the weaknesses of his father, greater gadgetry, greater accolade, greater supply, the statements that he has after this, and the fact of the matter is that with this reformed Peacemaker coming different age and perspective of himself and what he stood to, and the fact that, he was able to stand toe-to-toe with all different mixed accoladed people. I believe reasonably with all this supply of shit that he could have at his disposal, including the scabies helm, which is just crazy, but even then that would not be helpful to him because that would just be pretty much self-deletion, right? He reasonably would best, all the odds in comparison. So, yeah, I mean, that's, it for street tier. But now we come on to magical beings / sorcery / witch, right? Which all these characters above would not only be just way out of the league of durability / AP for any of the creative people below, would be way too more powerful, fast, or just have a lot of shit that would just dust the odds before these people could even capitalize on it. I mean, you got people in here that just beyond the comprehension of these people. There's also like speed. Like, this is where actually speed is really relevant because, like, don't get it twisted. All these people scale reasonably different height of shit by mixed accolades, scaling, and talk, and the fact that they're able to like do things of mixed take of different shit, or they have shit that like out hacks is another, right? Like dispose, really talk of really being able to out shoot, out box, or out really, full fledged put down a person, especially because we're talking about people just bringing in the pour of this cancerous odds against a person. But now it's a whole different new explicit regard. You got niggas that are pulling, things beyond the comprehension of the general quota of most niggas and are personification a craze factor of motherfuckers, right? That should even be in a conversation, especially because they, display great A, capabilities for magic and all that. Right, and why Ass Smash will be here when that talk. Obviously, the title doesn't entirely define, every person, but just makes argument that Ass Smasher's powers we talk about in greater form of the comics are different, withhold of magic. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, he's supposed to be somewhat accurate. Then, boom, right then and there. That's a great example. But still, going at the bottom, you have the general in case of Wonder Woman, right? The herald in case of power of Ares, and did different mixture, different shit. Off of mixed merit of him being a very intimidating and powerful dude, could provide different things that others below could not, and I don't really see any way without magic to be in question for him to die, and it took a great deal of mixed context for him to be defeated, so safe to say that. Cheetah in base form with heralding, magical capabilities, should be beyond that from her skill, ferociousness, all that, she's just tigress this nigga. But then Wonder Woman, for 2017, is not only a better matter of skill, has a great form of showcasings, caliber, even though Ares is playing around with her, right? She was able to survive different mixtures of shit from him and just should undoubtedly, be better. El Diablo. This is El Diablo with no confliction, no pullback, all his greatest showcasings, fiery intensity and power. Even if you want to mix argue durability-wise, even though he is showcased, reasonable relativity to things stronger than him, as El Diablo is not a normal form of human. El Diablo is a crazed meta-human, mutant, inheritment of the devil's power, born with the devil's gift in his own right. A demon that wishes to become an angel, right? This nigga would fry everybody to absolute ash. My nigga would storm the entire battlefield where he is the most high form intensity. Johnny Storm, Hanzo Asashi, straight full-fledged lamplighter from the boys, every nigga here. You cannot fuck with the king of hellfire. The only big setback is, again, the durability thing. But I believe his heat is too hot, too powerful. And I just feel like the way that he's moved, bro, I don't see anyone really surviving any of this unless you want to argue on some different mixed case of, like, defense. And I just feel like no one could survive this heat for long, and I feel like if full intention is to kill, he could crack out greater height of firepower like never seen. And that yard display is a showcasing of heat power like no other. And he accidentally, killed his entire family, turned them to ash, and ran people off the census. I mean, El Diablo is said to be like the most powerful member of the first Suicide Squad besides Enchantress. And in the greater form, he's able to stand to Enchantress, older little brother? I don't know. This her brother, right? So, no, I feel like that's reasonable. The reason why everyone else above is stronger, not only because, their flight capabilities, obviously, durability in general, there's size, and, the fact that they have better showcasing. So, I forgot her name. I don't know if her name's Cyclone, Whirlwind, whatever the fuck her name is, right? This shawty not only can fly, has way greater gauge, possibly getting around and pulling shit that, he can't get around. And you could say that goes for another person, but the fact is that he can either catch them lacking or they realistically in combat don't fly. It's just, something to mention. But she is very crazy with, fight. Able to catch with different people, pull a lot of crazy shit, able to pull a great deal of basically wind bending, air bending aspects, is there too, where the little bit of difference is she be moving like Fujin and can control and utilize all different other aspects. But with air bending, even though this is not in full character and we're all talking about in character for the most part with all these people, she could utilize different aspects of air and using colossal forms to be pretty much equivalent to Storm in some aspects. So I believe if a great deal of the intention is to reasonably kill, incapacitate, and best, she would just be too overflowing with too much matter of crazed movement and power that she could swap people off their feet, put them down, or entirely drain them of air, or be so havoc fling of all that type of shit that she would literally pull a Skyrus from Bakugan and just overrun, them in too much matter of air and power of that force would not only most time just most likely eviscerate niggas, but would probably crack, people into next week before they can even realize it. So again, you be putting way too much heavy pressure that would all around put El Diablo down. The only way I can see El Diablo winning is if he hits her. But she's way too much for, I feel like, El Diablo to win. And I think El Diablo would reasonably get swiped off his feet. You either have to be so much more durable, size, or you have to be a guy that's there's an argument that type of shit would not work on you because of how undominable your stance of power is. So King Shark, Anawe, Num Num, right? Greater Menace than Jeff the Land Shark, King Von himself, right? My man Nawe is not only way too durable, he's said to be the most strongest member of the Suicide Squad. Nothing harmed him, nothing worked against him, right? He's way too strong. He was able to take a hit from Starwood, most likely Krim from wrong, got knocked the fuck out in Dunzo, but was still standing. He is just a walking tank, the epitome of a big beluga boulder. Decently fast, and if he's trying to kill, can rip you to shreds, full fucking, devour you whole. King Shark is a, menace if he really wanted to, and I just feel like no one below could really especially harm him. The only argument is maybe if Twister, I'm just gonna call her that for, whatever talk, right, if she wanted to airbend, and if you want to argue, take oxygen from him, I don't know, and I don't know how long I'll keep him down. And there's also the fact that even though Anawe isn't able to survive on land, there's an argument that taking oxygen would be very hard because how much he actually utilizes in different mixture of talking of oxygen and shit like that. Very crazily durable. King Shark, is a technically demigod. And I don't really know how he would successfully kill her because she's never getting on the ground with this dude. But I don't actually see a way how she could defeat him. So their fight would most likely be a draw. But if King Shark ever did want to say, King Shark fuck nigga and dunk on her or something or try to get his hands on her, she would instantly die. So, it's as simple as that. But Adam Smasher is here not only because he was able to plant Black Adam into the ground and hold him. He's able to survive a mixed difference of different stuff from him. Take hits from Sabak. Was said to be physically the most powerful of, mixed bag, the just society in some aspects, but is very much skill regard individual. He was able to accidentally keep fucking over Hawkman, which was kind of funny, but just unneeded, right? And as well is just the fact that Adam Smasher, because of his size, height, durability, and capability, is one ridiculously crazed individual when he really wants to get on, as he could clamp, body, fodder, and in a lot of ways is one of, the most menacing regarded individuals, because he's just a towering giant. So, like Ant-Man becoming a giant, he would just be able to run through a lot of people. Again, the only way I could really see him dying is if you really argue the fact that because of the better mixed display of like base physicals, they might be able to put down, but it took a great deal of time for him to be taken out. And I actually do remember now in the movie, even though mixed context, Twister was able to take oxygen from him to like have him turn back to normal size to take him out, and it did knock him out. So now remembering that, we stand corrected. I think that says enough. From his size, I think now that concludes reasonably that she could do that to a Nawe, even with the argument still, a Nawe having a great inside take to maybe be taking air from. He breathes oxygen. Reasonably, she should be able to take that from him. Be very hard for Matt Smasher to entirely hit this woman here, even though, don't get it twisted, he could easily, crush her if he got the chance. It would just be a lot. And Adam Smasher is just way too big for now. Even if you think Adam Smasher couldn't like successfully kill a Nawe, like he could knock him out. Like he literally just throw a Nawe into outer space possibly if he wanted to. So yeah, like simple as that. But then you got El Diablo and his demon form, right? When he really go beast mode. Not only does he scale to a way more strong regarded person, he fully comes into his potential from all different talk and statements in this form. He's undoubtedly, revives into a whole, demigod seemingly, right? He is incarnate of magic. He already was a crazy matter user with Hellfire, but in this case, he becomes a literal hellspawn, personifies fire, reform into, a way more crazed powerhouse. And like I said, seriously, in my statement, he fully becomes revised into, a whole new level of demon time, and not like revived, but revised, right? Simply put, he's just of a higher regard of power stand than any other person here, and could easily, run through niggas in a way more better regard. You have the older little whatever fuck, brother of Enchantress, who was not only able to fully overpower this man, El Diablo, in the end, but stand way more greater than him in live forms, was able to solo multiple hordes of different military people, and it's just a one-man army, was a literal mountain of power. Granted, the bigger argument for why El Diablo was getting slowly overpowered, even though dominating and Mix giving him decent wet work, was the fact that El Diablo cannot sustain this form forever. Now, that can be a mixed argument, but I feel like El Diablo, because of all his mixed pool shit, the fact that he could decently have greater shining of capabilities like flight, greater whirl of hellfire, and can hurl a lot more of that shit to the more stupendous regard. So I feel like he would catch the people below him reasonably lacking, and end dog defeat them, right? That's because he has a greater doses of shit. Like he got way more powerful, and so much more powerful that reasonably he should stand to a greater deal. And the magic usage of this guy is way beyond these people, and he can reasonably catch these people lacking. So the fact that El Diablo can stand to him, simple scaling. If he didn't have a limit, you could try to argue he can maybe get over, but I think limit or not, he would not beat him, because not only was he giving him as much wet work, but the fact is that he just is way more, experienced, skilled, and accolade with his stuff. And yeah, he just would be beyond his comprehension, to where it doesn't really matter what you think he could do. It doesn't matter what he has in mind. He could not actually best him in any case of the way, right? And so, yeah, it just doesn't make any difference at all in this case. So, yeah, I would just say that, El Diablo, suffice to say, is reasonable here. You know what I'm saying? To be that goes obviously for the brother of Enchantress. Enchantress would be simple. Manville in the movie, way more powerful if it wasn't for a much of mixed matter of, context and having, mixed bag, even though reasonable use of the different form of like power of friendship and confines. She would have not won if she wasn't trying to pull in, the people of the Suicide Squad. Then that wouldn't have, happened. Mixed perception, Enchantress, because of having a host that has intimate feelings to Rick Flag, she wouldn't have done what she done if it wasn't for, that kind of like weakness, that kind of like Ultron, I guess, like eternal conflict for actually fully pursuing, the demise of the people, and again trying to, manipulate the members of the Suicide Squad. And you can try to the plot relevance, but she just should be way beyond. Her magic is crazy. She was causing catastrophe across the world, and she's just way beyond their comprehension. The reason why everyone above her, right, is reasonably above her is because of greater scaling to another, makes speed and durability, size, just a bunch of shit that should be obvious. But yeah, that's besides the point. Next up, we have his metahuman. It's obvious these people are metahumans on that reasonable counting of scale, and or simply put, of greater power stand and scaling to others. So in this case, that reasonably should get them to a greater form, right? So in this sense, right, in the matter for people and all that, I would say that Cheetah, not only from scaling to Wonder Woman, regardless of mixed applicability and stand of that, should be way beyond, all these different people with durability, speed, scale, height, accolades, all that stuff, and is one of the most, dangerous opponents for Wonder Woman at the time, right? So I would say in every way reasonably that she's just beyond the stance of where the people below could be. I believe that Starro, because of his size, ridiculous, immeasurable possible matter of like endurance and stamina, very much, crazy, enormous strength, would be able to squish, take anything they could deal. And again, from his threat level and said to be a Justice League threat, I'm going to be honest, unless you're a person that actually shows capability to stand somewhat to a guy that has accolades to be able to like be on that level, yeah, no. I don't believe in any way that Starro is getting defeated by anyone below. The only argument is maybe you could try to stretch like some mixed sorcery pool or like scaling the sorcery with like, obviously Cheetah, two like Enchantress. But suffice to say, the most clear form way, right? Yeah, someone's gonna throw a pause. I feel like someone like Enchantress would, even though her wicked sorcery, being the goddess of sorcery, seeming like, could not really pull anything of real actual essence of real damage. I do not think she has anything really in her artillery that could outdo Starro in any possible means to try to like break him down, break his like, defense and poise. I feel like Starro would just be too much of a movable object that could just mow through that shit, run through, could bolt, her before she could really do anything, which suffice to say, greater matter of speed. I feel like with a Chen's personality, she couldn't really gauge and really greater, full unravel and unrelentingly unyieldingly use a lot of great ray of her magic to sufficiently put down Starro. I believe in a lot of essence that Starro is just way beyond the comprehension of her and Cheetah. And again, because of his ridiculous creative size, which does not entirely matter to greater around people, but to these niggas would be just too much. And I believe that he would just squash, run through, and would be able to put, great deal of harm in every sense of the way to every case of what they could do. And again, without a great deal of like context and basically prep time, I don't really see any suffice to say way that's just more like, Starro would be able to be put down. I mean, again, Justice League like threat, crazy powerful person, the kaiju, Patrick Starr's better self, he would just be able to wreck house on almost every gauge, possible way of power that these niggas could pull. I mean, I really don't see any argument why anyone below could best him, to be honest. Like, there's no actual argument for why, I think, besides just, they have a greater array of shit, but the length of really what that could do, suffice to say, to stand against Starro, I don't believe is there. But enough mixed bag, Starro Glaze. Next we have Hawkman, right? Who kind of big mag, that didn't get to do a lot more standout shit, even though I feel like the actor did a very dope job and stood, as a very interesting case of character and had remarkable, decent showcasing the character, right? I do think there's a level of it could have been done better, right? Comics waste potential, but to be fair, that potential could have been better unleashed. And maybe in a new DCU, if he's allowed to stay, Hawkman could showcase that. But again, we gonna maybe see about that. But at the end of the day, Hawkman has not just multiple form of magical arsenal, has ridiculous experience, has been fighting with Dr. Fate for a good deal of time, mixing with it like in the comics to be a man of ancient times in all different matter of talk, has been able to rock with Black Adam, stand toe to toe with him, be relative in speed, put different form of work and harm on him, is said to be second strongest of the Justice League basically equivalent, right? And this man, Hawkman, from all his mixed arsenal and capability to make shit from a big ass mace, axe, shield, his wings that have great durability and sturdiness, right? And the fact that he was able to rock not just with Black Adam, but also stand toe to toe against Sabak, even with mixed, context of him having the helmet of fate. I believe that reasonably he should be here, and nothing of the people below to mix of his different members with, again, him being second in just society, right? His the equivalent. He reasonably should not only outspeed and best, but the fact is that he did way overarchingly better than these people and what they could do to Black Adam, as Black Adam dismissed what Twister did. Even though Adam Smasher did actually hold down Black Adam, he's never actually someone been able to physically harm him. He just kind of out-muscled him there. And, it's not the same as actually dishing out blow for blow, bang for bang, somewhat of something. So, no, to me, I don't really believe in any case of the way that anything that they could pull will really harm him, even with the wing manipulation thing. Again, if she really gets to that point, and I just believe that he's so much more reasonably faster and skilled that, it will really be just an argument of a 50-50 both hacks thing. And even with that, I believe from his magical arsenal, what he stood to, that it's safe to say that he could be better. Now, why he doesn't actually scale out more higher because of that, because Black Adam did dick him down most of the time. He did beat him down. He did ding his ass out of commission a lot of the time. And at the end of the day, it's even though he's very skilled and he has a lot of, weaponry, skill, mastery, accolade, fame, most likely by mixed matter of the old statement and criteria for being a very much undoubtedly ferocious warrior, and I do believe that he could punch her through. Starro beat him down. I believe Starro would even be able to successfully hit this dude, and they basically just have a, Clash of Titans ass fight. Nigga, basically Perseus to a fucking Goliath. That he doesn't really have an argument to build the best of a lot of these other people, and even though he is second, his second is not that much notable. And he's not like Dr. Fate, who was actually a threat to Black Adam. To be fair, by DCU's metric of cosmology, magic is the only way to hurt magic, so that's a bigger argument. But Dr. Fate is actually a very crazy individual. Dr. Fate is the Doctor Strange of DC Comics, and most importantly, obviously DCU. So, self-explanatory there. But then we have Flash, and this being Flash from the Justice League, or Zack Snyder Justice League, doesn't matter, right? So, he obviously is a speedster, is one more better, right, in comparison. And, better all around, is greater than others in a lot of the aspects from speed and showcasings. Could one-tap a lot of these people. Nobody below could either hurt him because they will never touch him. They can never see him. And he definitely is very powerful. But just in character and not needing most likely to pull the greater speed to go back in time and alter some shit, I believe that he would just all around effortlessly pack up and put down a lot of these people pin on a person like Starro and Chance, it'd be very hard to really estimate where he would go with that. But excuse me, mixed argument for them being, mixed on the same scale durability, as he was able to take Mick's same blows, and even though he never actually had a full encounter with Steppenwolf, did have the argument for being able to somewhat help in the means of gauge of power, and the fact that his power of, the Speed Force can empower and help him in different mixed matter of arsenal stance does give that argument. To be fair, Barry's not as much of a fighter, but if you would actually want to pull some different aspects of fighting stuff, like what has been counted and shown within his movie, reasonably so, he should be able to best him. I just feel like he should be here. Granted, you could put him in question mark / no scaling, because unlike his second iteration, he actually has argument with technically third, right? Because it's not actually like it's a form of iteration, it's like adaptation, but technically like third outing in a DCU, because technically he did have a showcasing in Peacemaker. But all I'm saying is like that shining actually showed him of having greater deal, of actual demonstration of what he could pull with the Speed Force, with his speed and the accolades upon that. So that is why, self-explanatory, he's here. Now everyone above is either way more durable, or you could try to argue being as fast, at least as that version, because I don't think I need to explain that. I don't believe that Superman is just not as fast as Superman, just because of the fact that his showing of beingness was after the fact of being resurrected. I believe pre-resurrected Superman, right, is undoubtedly as much fast, and obviously just way beyond the comprehension of Barry. Ares, a god, and magic being the only way to mix back, hurt and pin I perceive, or the fact of the matter of like a being of way more greater height, reasonably conclude him being stronger. You have Wonder Woman or greater armor. This guy, his accolades, being able to hurt Wonder Woman or greater armor, and obviously Wonder Woman with this armor, and talk of their accolades being above Ares, right, and not needing the enchanted power of Zeus to be able to defeat Ares. So reasonably so, they should be self-explanatory and be here by proxy in all different concession, right? Next we have demigods, which has Zeus, right, regardless of being older or not, in time of facing apocalypse, and or being above, Steppenwolf, regardless how you see it. And Garrett Talk, right, was able to shatter the mother boxes, created the mascara, a very ridiculously powerful individual, king of the gods, and at a great height in time was the most fame, acclaim, most powerful, without a doubt, right? But again, this is Zeus of this time. Obviously, I have two Zeuses here. I couldn't exactly get the difference, in image in comparison, right? And it's a great form talk. But this Zeus in comparison is just of young. This is young Zeus, right? But it's kind of crazy for him to look like this, even with a decent, like, cool design in comparison, but look like this the way later, looking demonstrably different. And he already has like two famed children, with that being said. So again, kind of crazy with everything being said. But regardless of that, right, he reasonably here should be here within the matter for, his accolades and shit. A higher Zeus is higher Zeus for whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to get into later on, right? But I just want to really make this clear that, again, this Zeus is of, that fight against Darkseid. Was able to harm Darkseid, big damage him, pose a great threat. Was said to be one of, not the, big strongest, defenders in comparison of that time and all that. So I would reasonably say, by all reasonable qualification, that Zeus of this time reasonably is of a greater, higher standing than another, right? And, with the argument for his children and their prime and greater shit be reasonably stronger than him, is because of the fact of the shining and shit along those lines. I just feel like this version of Zeus reasonably should be here off of that baseness, simply put. And going forward, you have this big brute Kryptonian from Man of Steel. You have Ferrer. You have Zod, simple chain connect scaling. So I have a great both showcasing against Superman in one-on-one scenarios with reasonable experience and greater adaptive standing in comparison, toe-to-toe, bang for bang, bing for bing. I believe solemnly that Superman is reasonably beyond the comprehension of these people in toe-to-toe fill, snap Zod's neck, all that. But then Kara not only best in the odds against those three as well, and being better pit for pit, tit for tit, ball for ball, but showcase way more, very much ready to run for a fade, ready to buck with no care or compassion for the enemy. She's very much, on demon time if she wanted to. And simply put, the difference between her and her cousin is a big distinct fact is that Kara is a box first, ask questions later. She is one of the most, undoubtedly audacious crack fiend fighters that is ready to pummel, pulverize, and put down almost everybody in every case of the way. And yeah, simple as that, right? Like, Shawty is ridiculously crazy in a matter for skill, strength, and other aspects of that. So, yeah. Godlike powerhouses is for people not only that have reasonable outing and showcasing to scale to higher mixed matter of people, but as well because technology, hacks, and deliberate, physical outing would just be beyond the others in comparison. So, like, starting with Black Manta, he was able to harm with mixers technology and the lancing technology against others, empowered by magic or advanced technology or not. He was able to sufficiently put a little bit of pressure on Aquaman, and that takes place after Justice League. So this version of Black Manta should reasonably, undoubtedly be there, right? When I talk about a greater version of him, obviously later on, right? I'm about to get into that, like I talked about with Zeus. But he reasonably should be beyond. I know it might be seeming crazy for Black Manta to be here, but I mean, the simple scaling chain is reasonable. This man, Aquaman, is able to hurt Steppenwolf to some degree or scale to him and stand to him. And regardless if he is on land or underwater, the fact that he's able to do something to Steppenwolf and Black Manta is able to harm him, hurt him, and do something a greater deal to him is ridiculous to comprehend. And as well, the skill, standing of different stuff, and the versatility he does have in his plasma lasers, right, could incinerate for a lot. And I do believe he would put a great deal of crafty damage upon everybody below, reasonably so. And again, it makes it more stronger, better. Steppenwolf or not, I feel like just with that, the durability to be taken into play, as he was not taking any road damage into his plasma lasers got reflected. And unless you want to say because of armor and makes their being would do that, I don't believe that's going to happen. And again, his technology, how he uses it, is the pure, difference in power scaling. I believe in every credible way, Black Manta can push through the odds and blister these people out of commission, simply put, right? Cyborg, same shit to a better regard, right? He was able to, control and through mixture of technological, advantage, but through sheer force of will, contain the mother boxes. Has all different technology. Is able to somewhat harm Superman, not super, no pun intended, but something of somewhat standing. He is said to be the most advanced, powerful technology on the planet. Different account. He's taught to be a very crazy, ridiculous form of fighter. There's very much presentation of a very crazily, powerful individual in a lot of aspects. And I believe undoubtedly that, because of his technology, because of how he stood to different people, and the fact that he was like 1/3 the same, amount of power stand as Superman to contain and confine all the matter of, the technology the way it was, I believe very much surely that he can stand beyond the record of, all the odds that could be put, before him, below him, as that being technology, mixed speed, and form of like capabilities along that. And he did take both Superman and did survive, and this is a stronger Superman. And Cyborg just, verbatim is said by Batman himself to be one, killing machine if he wanted to pose a threat. And he's still around in a hypothetical future that is actually in big hypothetical to be the actual true ending of the DCU. Because I don't know how many of y'all know this. I'm not going to go into a whole Martin Luther King speech because, trying to be the most concrete, suffice to say, and strong about, what I'm actually trying to say to most full regard so we get through this. As I know this video, like almost every, is reasonably getting long. And I appreciate all y'all who've, stayed this long and watched. But the DCU actually does end with Apocalypse, coming down onto Earth, invading, raining them, but hellish hate and devastation upon it, and entirely, crushing Earth's defenses like no other, putting Earth and everything about it into a hellscape like no other, right? And so, someone like the King of Apocalypse, God of it, great dark side, literally full shot on all of Earth, and Earth entirely was fodderized to extents like no other. And so that alone puts, into perspective the fact that Cyborg is one of the few people living after all that, regardless of the context, I feel like does mix into some argument that he does actually have validity. And that also can be said about others, but to be fair, the mixed bag difference is that a lot of that didn't change anything. And even though that outcome maybe could have changed depending on the writing to be had with shit, there's just the fact of the matter is that I feel like he's always been kind of narratively showcased to be a very much, proposable, powerful, undoubtedly crafty individual that can bring the fight to a lot of motherfuckers, right? So, yeah, simple as that for Cyborg. But next we have Aquaman of the Justice League, teamed up with Cyborg, did some cool shit. Very powerful, has his mother's trident, very effective, very great skill regard on land or on water, talk for shit, right? And obviously I don't have verses that distinctive, because it's not like a mixed bag, like no more proposed power difference, but, simply put, the rightful heir to the throne of Atlantis, boy, is very much crazy, powerful, skilled, advantageous, very crazy, and through having, greater, regard of, feats and scaling, we'll talk about a revisement, aka, alternate form of power stoke. But in the case for his, stand here, simply put, from standing to stepping with great capabilities on land with water, being able to control water, counter water, connection to the seas, and different aspects, shit along that. I would like to say he rightfully should be above. He has a magical trident, has the skill and accolades to back it up. Depending on the environment, he can utilize a greater record of shit. He does have technique and capability that he does show when he's a better reform, big up one, shit, right? When he really has his glow up. But the fact that he does have all these unique techniques or stylistically crazy shit, very ridiculous durability. He is a fucking unit. I believe Aquaman, suffice to say, can push through, perfect against a lot of odds against him, right? In a very unique way. And on land or on the talk of water, being a thing with him, or even in water, right? He's a very much crazy dude. So, yeah, like, simply put, suffice to say, he should be there. Mara is everything. Just ridiculous boast beyond compare, right? She has water bending, can utilize all different type of liquids, decently adept, crazy, decent fighter to some extent, where she's able to go paw for paw and bang for bang. What she showcases in the case for her greater outings, showcase her to be not only very physically strong, but very much array of different, ridiculous power usage when it comes down to stacking against the odds, involving magic and technology, so she can utilize water or other aspects of liquid. And if she really wanted to kill you, she could actually pull bloodbending and pull a Hama and entirely desecrate you from the inside out, and could decimate in a lot of crazy ways against people. But again, in character, I believe she could use a lot of shit. It's unfortunate that Mara is played by objectively a horde individual, but that's besides the point, right? Mara could effectively, in every sense of the way, surgically dismantle and fully, overpower and pressurize people to the most ridiculous regard, drown some people, or, suffocate them from the inside out with water in their bloodstream, crippling them, paralyzing them. And she just has a lot of shit that if you stretch the bar or not, she would be too much of an intimidating force. And the people that would beat her are people who not only count her in almost every accolade or to immeasurably built different strong, and playing the mixed argument if you're not physically strong or have some, different eternal aspect of possibly being like, greater credit of like possible boast to say could get around that. then that's where the problem is. Again, depending on the environment with water, other talks, on land with water, on different surface area that can give her different, utilization that isn't just water. She could be crazy. And there is an argument from different shit that she could use when she really gets mad. She could utilize, people's blood or other shit as counters. And especially inside water. I mean, I don't need to explain this. I mean, Charlotte becomes the goddess of the seas at that point. So, yeah, I mean, just any way you look at it, Charlotte is ridiculous. But all that gets counted out by pre-resurrected Superman, a.k.a. BVS Superman, a.k.a. taking everything that he's done in that movie without being weakened by kryptonite. Reasonably suffice he should be here. Not only is Superman, but all his different capabilities, hacks, different usage, form of his Kryptonian DNA to very absurd regards of him mixed skill, super speed, heat vision, cold breath, wind breath, flight, very advantageous, matter of fight and skill, scaling to doomsday, and can do a lot of different things to people that they could never comprehend. The fact that everybody below in a different account could never actually stand to when he was resurrected or not, I feel like it's reasonable, and everyone above either is above him, because in this version of DCU it is confirmed by a writer that Superman is weak to magic, but the thing is that the people above him have a lot more going than just being simply magical or not that can reasonably defeat him. And it's the fact that from a narrative mixed perspective and all other talks, Superman, regardless of resurrected or not, even with all these showcasing and outings, having great bloodlusted intent or not, I feel like doesn't really have every right to really say he would entirely shine. Because again, like with Man of Steel in comparison, I believe with mixed uses of technology, the reasonable argument for different scaling, skill, and other aspects of that could fully, in every form, full-fledged, give more better advantage and proactively entirely, down him in different aspects of shit and cruise, through a great deal of a lot of his shit a lot more effortlessly than in comparison to people below, because again he has a so much more greater immaculate form of strength and outing to where he could steamroll them. But the people above, a lot of them should be self-explanatory why he should never really have a true concept of capability to best, especially at base, because some of these niggas, you would have to be, I feel like, pulling stretches of Dawson from Street Fighter to really give argument for why he should be. So for the next tier question, mightiest mortal / demigods / the godlike beings, right? We have Ocean Master, who with his own creative, trident, great depth usage of, mixed bag techniques on land, decently skilled in scaling to his older brother. In water is a menace, and on different form of surface stand, he can be reasonably a ridiculous menace. He is skilled in so many different mixed matter martial arts. It's very credit of, one of not the most terrifying man to hail from the oceans. Is very skilled in depth, outclassed Arthur in so many record of ways, and is his Killmonger, and it's very much a wrathful, terrifying Vato. And from what has been shown in Aquaman 2, can scale to the best regards of shit with Aquaman, and reasonably should be here regardless of how you see it. So, with that being said, with having a magical and being trident, I believe he would be able to all around outdo Superman, and a lot of the advantages he has over Ocean Master, I believe Ocean Master could survive, push past, and outdo. And again, depending on the case of, the plane and talk and conversation, I believe Ocean Master would all around greaterly, best the odds against Superman. Because of that, and just is way more proficient in a lot of aspects of fighting that would make him way more dynamic of a fighter to best him, right? Black Manta is the same, not only having as much great technology to even better than what he had before. Plasma lasers, a greater trident, a trident that can combat Aquaman. He's able to scale to Aquaman, outspeed and duel. He's able to pull a Medjai and have them both be crap, Theme, pull shit, right? And him still be over here able to stand to him to a great deal, right? He'd be having them both on great A standing of fighting fury, and he's able to not only 1v2, pull different insatiable, amount of crazy loopholes and aspects of shit. Because of the trident, he has mixed bag, a second, headspace in him that allows him to have some mixed better expand and extend of his capabilities. Mixed bag precognition. And again, he's able to pull some different mixed matter Magi shit and having, the trident be cracked here. But like I said before, I mean exactly the fact that he's able to pull on some greater Magi shit, having two of them be on crack theme, timing, and still building an outdo in a lot of crazy forms, with him maybe able to crack trident, use them in two different dual forms, put it back, use the trident's greater mysticism and different dynamic loopholes to severely outbox both of them. And even though I believe, obviously, before I put him and another person that has the same trident, same argument for, mastery and pull shit, can defeat him, especially because we're talking about more than just that one-on-one and close scenario. I believe that Arthur, King of Atlantis, can all around stand better than him, but the fact that Black Manta put him on his back not once but twice and could have pushed to possibly kill him, enough says to me that he could take out Superman in the grand scope. The Kraken, right, enough said, size, weight, measurement, strongest of the season, is one undoubtedly crazy, powerful being, and a being that has slayed multiple different famed people and was second to, Atlan himself. Undoubtedly gives reasonable matter for, conversation about him being way beyond the comprehension of Superman. So, yeah, as simple as that. Then, Atlan, with usage of not just a trident, gift, be able to control the sea and pull different all different forms of aspects of crazy shit. He did defeat the 8th king of the case of the 7 kingdoms, right? Later on, right? Reform everything in a greater upsetting form. Basically shape the seas the way it is, aka would reasonably give reasonable credit and counting for being a person of ridiculous height of power. Like I said, he defeated the 8th king of, later on 7 seas of Atlantis, and aka, is a very hailed regard individual, right? Was so legendary that, someone like Aquaman taking the armor of King Atlan away in his own style and doing things to the same great height in a lot of forms, gave a lot of mixed different argumentation for, him being of a high, reasonable, revered stand. He basically is akin to the Godfrey Toralu of Atlantis. So that right there, suffice to say, puts him in great standing, But Aquaman, aka Arthur, is all that but better to me from skill, style, the way he commands the seas. A lot of his aspects of fighting, his trident is way more better. He uses his trident in a way that is so much of the most crazily, dualistic, fly, off the handles movement of like Robin from Teen Titans. He is a very effective, very cracked individual, not just with all his versatility and hacks, but just skill-wise, undoubtedly one of the most sufficient, strong form, dualistic, crazy, interesting fighter to be there. And I feel like he has a lot of different, showcasings of being able to pop off different with the trident in a way that no one can really capitalize on. And from his teachings, from him still being a unit, better armor, different crazy usage, and just the fact that Arthur has always still been, a beast when it comes down to different shit. He is one undoubtedly mighty king. He is a not just tenacious warrior, but a very vigorous one. So I believe that he would, suffice to say, best the odds against not just him, but everybody below, because one of them get full on control. So, yeah, enough said. Wonder Woman, though, of not just, Justice League, but as well tied with her interest into, the fray and battle of Shazam 2, right? Exactly correct, man, because sometimes Frey be kind of sound like the most weirdest, contextual, statement to saying. But obviously, you guys know what I'm saying. This is mix of, whatever mixed comparison you want to say is better showcase, because she didn't do that much in Shazam 2 from recollection. So, her from Justice League will also be Josh's, Zack Snyder's, and makes it for her outing. Shazam 2. Reason to be here, not only did she stand arguably, besides, greater Superman entirely bullied, stepping with greater than anyone else against him, was actually able to be par for par with him without entirely getting bodied or, swapped away like a fly. She still is not as, powerful as him, but because of her skill, very sufficient capabilities, and, not just arsenal or her form of, combat ability, combat a different mixture of odds and comparison, and the fact that, she stood very much paw for paw, bang for bang, and skill wise, like I said, is on par or greater level with these people, has magical weapons, and proved to be a very powerful individual, and did things to this man, Doomsday, that Superman did not do, even though he was weakened. But the fact that she was doing it a lot more easily after Doomsday, growing in power back to back and adapting to extents that were said to be a world-ending possible threat, I believe reasonably that Wonder Woman is beyond a lot of of others, and from accounting of being reasonable, allied to be standing against the odds that Shazam had in mind. I would like to say that she's on that level. Granted, I don't think she's as powerful as Shazam or any person that's champion or avatar of gods. I just feel like the fact is that she has always been said to be a very crafty individual. Flash is here for obvious reasons, from the fact of his outing showcasing him to be way more faster than what he's shown before, to multiple times be creatively built different in different speeds. He has a lot of forms of capability and speed and hacks that could give him reasonable credence to outmaneuver and outdo a lot of people to the most ridiculous regards. He is the fastest man alive. He is also the fastest demonstration of a menace in real life and also in the fictional talk. As a Miller, you gotta love, a D1 demon. But joke aside though, right? He has a lot of instances of being a guy that's super clumsy and doesn't actually demonstrate the most proficient usages of his speed in most different adept forms, like different better versions of Flash, or actual counting of speed being used as a force like no other. But with the speed force in question, all his demonstration that was shown for him to be crazy, and like his previous version, even if you want to say he's not the most greatest sufficient speedster, he reasonably, from all his speed scaling and talk, should be a guy that not only, right, but all different talk in case of capabilities and having different verses about discussion be compared to Grant Gustin's Flash. And I want to say shout out to Kid, not only from being a banger YouTube channel with two banger lads, but Kid Shoes Garrick for mixed bag inspiration, technically hope, mixed tie with this tier list and the comics. Forgot to say about that, even though I did add my different Yeet uniforms, all different niggas to this tier, right, to make this be not only fully all of the relevant parts of the DCU, but coming together the way I need to. This reasonably to me would put him above a great deal of yards of people. He's way faster than these people. He can do a lot of things to these people that they couldn't even comprehend in actual time, and is a very much ridiculously built different fast stance. It's a nigga when he really wants to stand toe to toe to people. The problem is, regardless if you think he's like 1,000, 100 times, millions of times faster, he can never hurt these people. He can never actually find a way to suffice to kill these people or put them down for the count, unlike others where he is always shown undoubtedly to be faster and outdo. And I believe that that's a big thing with him, right? And that's always kind of been a thing. That's a big reason why his past stuff is of a lower scale, because regardless if you think he's faster, he can never hurt them or do anything really to them. At least this version, he actually now has the credence, because again, the people that he's faced and the fact that he was able to harm or put some form of beats on people of strong regard that reasonably scale or in like conversation against others. So yeah, that's where I would suffice to say put him at, right? Doomsday should be obvious, not only because of being Zod and having different uses of different parts of Superman's kit of powers. He could obviously only utilize really 3 to 4 that's visually shown, like heat vision, flight, super strength, mixed bag, super speed, and everything else was coming from the fact of him growing in the most crazy, chaotic surge of power. He could utilize a lot more. He was the most ultimate threat, and it wasn't for the Kryptonite Spear and Mix being weakened by the Kryptonite Smoke, he could have not been defeated. And he was so powerful that he would have slowly, by different account, destroyed a world and possibly left Earth looking like what Doomsday left Krypton's planet. Right? So, with that being said, I believe, suffice to say, that he should reasonably, be here, and he's not too far off from the original Doomsday. Now, Steppenwolf is here, regardless if it's Josh League or Snyder's cut, and I just love Snyder Cut's look, not only because it's a way more better design, better character, better silly written, the voice actor, all flowers to him, peak voice acting, right? Fuego, nice, dashing, execution of Steppenwolf. In every case of the way, this version of Steppenwolf is way better. The dog of Apocalypse, he reasonably to be here. Contestingly in a lot of forms, he's stronger than a lot of our people. His weaponry, his durability, skill, accolades is way better. He bullied and boxed out a lot of different people. His skill of great high regard. He utilizes a lot of mixture of different hacks, both that you could say best him. He fought a stronger Doomsday and was contingent with him. He had a draw with him, right? I think he's all around more stronger because of the fact that he left a way more greater severe impact, and the fact that Doomsday mixed with his fight with Steppenwolf, but more or less Doomsday himself, caused the big crater and or full devastation of the moon, because from exact recollection, counting the memory to the most precise extent, as science and brothers wanted to do, so they put Doomsday and Steppenwolf's battle was so heavy, so hectic, that it caused a big ass destruction of a moon that splintered into like 3 or 4 pieces. So they left the moon looking like Yggdrasil from God of War. Heavily, reasonably disconfigured, fractured. But it goes beyond just causing a crack, causing a split, causing a big dent. No, this motherfucker is looking like fucking Play-Doh. It looks ripped to pieces, and most importantly, looks entirely, cracked the hell up. So their fight, leaving that level of impact, where a moon is of the most ridiculous level of big, deconstruction, breaking, and other aspects of that, to me, not only demonstrates a ridiculous measure of power in Doomsday, making them undoubtedly one of, not, in potential maybe, to be the most terrifying regarding if I don't like his design here, and I definitely don't like this gray CGI monster Doomsday. Get this motherfucker out of here, right? Doomsday is one impactful pillar of power beast motherfucker that you can never, take away the argument for being, a ridiculous powerful dude. And this was a fight that, culminated in that, but Doomsday is the man that, by all accounts, by Zack Snyder's own word, reasonably, was the more overarching boast of that power, and Steppenwolf was able to stand to that to some degree, and that's the more stronger version of him than in this version, and I would say that because he was able to stand to him, and this Doomsday only got the potential to do that, and even though the moon being destroyed and the actual measure of that capability is different from a man that possibly had a potential to be a world-destroying individual, which, mix is kind of like broad, but reasonably distinguished to a plant level yield. I would like to say, because Steppenwolf's own stand, the fact that he was able to have ties and utilization, and as well mix because of outboxing and being able to be over a lot of different people at scale to the configuration of the mother box, I proudly see every reason for Steppenwolf being over that Doomsday of BVS. And reasonably already from verbatim said by, word of God pretty much, that he stands, to a great heavy level of power, especially because, again, Doomsday and him culminated in the full case of destruction of Krypton's moon, right? Motherfucker over here looking like a landslided, disconfigured, plane of existence. That shit got entirely obliterated by their battle. It's crazy. But Darkseid is a whole different measure and wild form of power. So base, young, doesn't matter how you see it. Dark Side is multiple times said narratively with this version, regardless of having anti-life size to Omega beams, to be a whole different hail of power stand beyond compare to these people. He is beyond all comprehension of them. Dark Side is the king, God. 2, stepping with fearsome. He is said and narratively hailed to be the ultimate threat to not just the Justice League, planet, and the universe. He is top dog, zealously, undeniably powerhouse like no other to be comprehended. So with that being said, Dark Side should reasonably be here. Now this is one of the demons that, inhabit or is conjured through Subak, but the main de facto demon, the head honcho, right, scales to Dr. Fate, fought him and is a deity himself, and has claim of, being on the same measurement, different hightail, gods and beings. So, yeah, the reason we should be here. But Art of Fate easily should be over here because not only defeating him in the prequel comic to Black Adam, this man Art of Fate has so many spells, so many crazy capabilities, has precognition, can see the future, can see different aspects of shit, has illusions, all different crafty shit, versatility of all different most wild forms of sorcery, can pull from so many different aspects of his shit. It's not even funny. And Dr. Fate is the master of sorcery and all the aspects of that like no other. But when we get to the top dogs of the universe, is where you get the people that should be able not only to be uncontested by this dude in so many ways, because not only is Art of Fate not on the same measurement scale, they have way too much to pull from their arsenal and things along those lines, and just have ways of fighting or reasonable hail count and scale that should outdo every credit of way for, Dr. Fate to pull shit. But Dr. Fate is especially here because of his mixed standing to Sabak, the fact that, mentally conflicted or big, overrun of odds against him from not just, having to utilize a great force of power to make that force field, having a bunch of mixed matter of, mental fatigue and strain on his power because of him using his power a lot. The fact that Dr. Fate, even though it's not really a big stamp because of his age or any aspect of him being, a veteran of a great deal of, time as a hero, as he has fucking millions of experience with Dr. Fate through, the helm being a thing before fucking time, it seems like, by all account, with the help of Nabu, was able to pull all the type of crazy shit. And again, he was the only big threat to Black Adam and was able to conceal him, harm him, damage him, really sting, the brother in a lot of ways. Reasonably gets into that. But with Artemis, goddess of the hunt, Virgin goddess, peak archer, right? Easily should be here, helped out in different form of battle and conflict against Darkseid. Ares should be here. Ares ball claim, killed her and the rest of them from gods. Ares was second to Zeus and put the biggest form of harm and arguable boast of power stand against them. And Zeus defeated Ares, banished that motherfucker, struck him down, big wounded him for years on end, and nullified his power. Zeus created the mascara. Zeus is a ridiculous powerful motherfucker, right? Zeus said to be one of, if not the most powerful mainline god across all different boards, and Zeus is ridiculously powerful. The god of the sky, king of Olympus, father to most of the different parts of man. He is ridiculous, but simple as that. But Savannah, because of the power of all 7 deadly sins and utilization of a bunch of crazy forms, splurge of magic, lightning, super strength, super speed, endurance, stamina, hyper intelligence, crazy shit with wisdom, and can, be a literal fucking, moving bowling ball against a lot of these people, where he could just brush off, put down, walk people down like Mr. X and just body almost everybody. He can never be be arguably defeated unless you're to a greater height, makes different power, right? On the same level or way more. And the fact is that his all-around weakness to really divert his power and more and more have his power leak out, so he gets weakened and gets dissolved of overall strength, is something that no one else can figure out. And even though it was a lot of context for, Shazam to beat him, I believe Shazam is at a point where he not only could reasonably, scrap with him so much that he could fully put him down, but at least being out to the point where he would dominantly press him to where he could reasonably decisively best him. Shazam is the champion of Earth's mightiest mortal. His name being Shazam, which is an acronym for 6 different people, right? For the wisdom of Solomon, strength of Hercules, stamina of Atlas, right? Power of Zeus, courage of Achilles, and speed of Mercury. Shazam, right? Champion of the wizard Shazam, and, most importantly, right, the GOAT, Billy Batson, reasonably should be here. The dragon, though, if it wasn't for the case of the staff and a bunch of mixed content, this dragon would have bullied the hell out of Billy. He was already greatly doing that. He was putting a great threat to Billy, and he had Billy really second guessing if he really was worthy of the mantle to stand against him, because this dragon was a whole different avalanche, an overrunning beast like no other, right? Like, this dragon was able to annihilate and full send niggas into fear. This dragon was like Big Fang Foom, was like an Elden Ring boss. This nigga was like the magical hurricanes of like fucking Psittasax. So yeah, like, that's a reasonable point. Sabak, though, powered by 6 demons, is able to big harm Black Adam, being able to put a threat to him, best out different people, kill Dr. Fate. Reason we would do that regardless of the mixed bag context and talking shit. And yeah, like, Sabak is just undoubtedly a ridiculous form of force like no other. Black Adam will be here all around the grand scope, from being able to somewhat control his power, from being, greater from a champion and claimed person with skill to a better person, and accolade of his capabilities and shit along those lines. Has argument for having more powerful gods than in comparison, Shazam is a way more skilled kind of mix, stand of like power stand. This man Shazam, right, is powered by Greek gods, a reasonable great accolade to mix, Greek beings, but as well, Black Adam is the same. He has the strength of a Mun, has speed of all different mixture, of outing and showcasing, fight, lightning of crazy regard, is very skilled, in all these, and is one, undoubtedly pillar of power. So yeah, like, reasonably is there, and it's said, to be second to Superman almost, especially because of magic. But the wizard Shazam not only was able to banish this man Black Adam, depower him for a great deal of time, put him down for the count for a great deal of not only, time and place, and was unfazed by the different outing what he did. And Shazam the Wizard was said to be multiple times over to be the most, crafty, wild form of being, of not just magic, but all aspects of, power. So easily that right there should have him be able to slap up anyone below him and utilize all different crafty magical tricks to put him down, right? And at his most strongest in his prime, should suffice to say, put him there. But Superman is here from a bunch of mixed narrative talk. He said to be the strongest in the universe. Superman is the face and most prolific powerhouse of the DCU. He was said, regardless if he is weak to magic, to but the best of the odds in comparison. And Superman just offered like the statements against, the odds, possibly put against him, right? Because I don't want to say that like with back-to-back repetition, but simply put, any of his disadvantages, any possible, form of like setbacks that could happen because of the record of him being weak and very much vulnerable, heavy to magic, he could outdo, from not only the record from what he was able to show being resurrected with bullying, resisting the lasso of truth, pushing past different magical uses, and entirely in the most aura-farming, fortunate humiliation of the dog of apocalypse, body the fuck out of stepping with and put him down in the most quickest way, saw through him. Is a deliberate, one-man army, is literally the antithesis of what it means to be a guy playing side quests while thinking he's hard. Man, is cracking motherfuckers left and right. Is so much of a immeasurable potential of powerhouse. He basically becomes the fucking executioner Kim Marta of Apocalypse through means of a bunch of wacky from context ordeals, and you know is a being never to be dare trifle with in the grandstand. So yeah, simple as that. But the true most powerful, verbatim said, narratively and shown in possible height is Apocalypse with the power of anti-life, the Omega beams. Reasonable comparison to the comics would fodder, send everybody to their deaths, would conceptually erase people, atomize. He would stamp his foot full up niggas' asses and make them look like flags. He would gruesomely, brutally, wrathfully, effortlessly send, everybody to a grave in the most crazy form, and show the multi montage with the Omega beams and sheer strength is all polarized in different level of powerhouse that anyone could ever comprehend. So simply put, apocalyptic God is a reasonable substantiation for where he should not only be titled and as. That is it for the DCU Power Singing trailers. That this decently late time. Sorry, this might seem a little bit kind of jumbled, right? Even though I feel like what I mean. Here's what I say: watchable, audible, and cool video. I hope you guys enjoyed, regardless of the way, right? I love you guys. I appreciate you for watching this long, regardless. Hope you watched it, to the end, believe, or it's coming by. I appreciate you. If you're new here, like I said, leave a like, share, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Whatever the case, though, I love you guys. I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Peace and army. Love y'all.